I am Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susie.
And we're paranormal specialists who live in the most haunted city on earth, Savannah, Georgia. Every day is Halloween in our line of work, so join us as we spin true tales of haunts, murders, and disturbing Savannah history. I'm Madison.
I'm Chris.
And welcome to the most haunted city on earth.
Oh, God, no. 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 Bad. I said start the damn episode up. Okay.
So how about when we get to 200 Parajunkies, we do a bloopers reel of all of the annoying things that we do before the episodes start.
I got it.
All right.
No. Okay. Enough. They didn't come for this. Go.
But I think they did. You heard what George said. We're delightful.
We're delightful. Utterly delightful.
Get going.
All right. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Most Haunted City on Earth. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susie.
Oh, and I'm JT Timmons. Sorry, I'm getting the questions pulled up because it's a Q&A.
Q&A
Yay.
Saturday.
Yes, questions that we shall answer.
Ish.
Woo.
We'll answer ish.
Yeah. But yes, before we get into today's episode, we do have some Parajunkies to thank. And
yes, we do.
JT, would you like to read those?
Absolutely. We would like to thank Devin, Christy Hart, Yvonne Holden, George Gay, Eric Withers, Stephanie, and Kate Wilkerson. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you so much.
Yes. We are growing. We're past 100. It's exciting. Now our next goal is to get to 200, and it's going to be wicked fun.
Yes. And some upcoming Parajunkie exclusives. JT and I are going up to the North Carolina mountains. Hopefully they don't destroy us again.
Yes.
Like the last time we tried to go
Should
up
be
there.
better weather.
Yeah, it should.
Certainly.
It's supposed to be nice, but you know what? It's been weird every time we've gone up there.
So it's Moonite.
It's been horrible.
It's the Moonite people.
Moonite
Actually,
people.
I have a whole theory, and we'll save this for the Parajunkies mostly, but I'll give you an insight. It's I have this theory that the land spirits are not happy with the renters that have been up there recently.
Oh, sure.
So,
I can see that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's been a lot.
It's been a lot. But regardless, we're going to film like 3 or 4 episodes while we're up there. So it's going to be pretty fun. Moon-eyed people. We're going to go investigate the really freaking creepy cemetery that's up on Bear Wallow Mountain. Maybe we'll do some other we're doing Helen's Bridge.
Yeah, we're doing Helen's Bridge.
Which JT and I have had a paranormal experience already at Helen's Bridge.
Nice.
Yep. All right, so let's go ahead and jump on into the Q&A. This is from Amanda Murphy. Hi, Chris, JT, and Madison. I have many questions. Over the past few months, I have been having the same dream every couple of nights/weeks, to the point where I know what is going to happen and I know how to react in the dream. I often wake up terrified, and then I fall back asleep, entering back into the same dream. What is this? Please help me understand. I know that there is something in our house. I can feel it, and my kids can feel it too. We are all open about it. For years, I've been sensitive, and I know my daughter is as well. I often hear footsteps and know that something is here. I'm just not quite sure about what it is. Is there a way that my dreams are being brought to me through this entity, and why they keep happening over and over again? If so, whatever this is, they went through, and what I am experiencing in the dreams is sadly terrifying. Any insight to this would be amazing. Please help us understand. Amanda Murphy.
You know, it is very, very possible that the entity that's in your house is trying to communicate with you through dreams, because I never was able to communicate with spirits through dreams like that until I moved into the house we're in right now, where I've had multiple entities try to contact me through dreams, including the first time it ever happened to me, which was Jim. If you don't know who Jim is, we discussed him a very long time ago, probably towards the beginning of this podcast. He's our house spirit. And the way that he first introduced himself, if you will, in an official manner, was basically taking me through his murder in my dream, where pretty much he was heinously murdered inside the house in the 50s. They never caught his killers. And basically, I didn't realize that that was what was happening until JT woke me up because I was screaming in my sleep. And I opened my eyes and Jim was standing in the corner of the room. And so basically, you might be having these recurring dreams because they're not getting the reaction that they need from you. Basically, what Jim needed from that interaction was he needed me to know what happened, basically, because everything that he had been doing up until that point completely died down after the dream happened. Because he, when you have a spirit that specifically dies in a really brutal way and there was never justice, sometimes it's cathartic for them to be able to share their experience. And so he didn't need to further try to grab my attention afterwards. It might be the same case with this entity, and you just might not be picking up on exactly what the purpose is yet. But maybe if you do pick up on the purpose, eventually the activity will kind of die down, is my thought process at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree that it sounds like you might be dealing with a spirit looking for resolution. And that resolution might be more than acknowledgement. It could be a situation by which they are seeking justice or still thinking that there could be justice. So there's a lot of variables at play. But in some regards, the spiritual entities are probably looking for some sign that the communication is working, looking for you to react or interact in a way that allows them to know that you hear them. Because a lot of times when we have bad dreams and we wake up, we do a lot to suppress them, or they become a point of complaint, which may not be the reaction they're hoping for. So the best I can do is to really dive into the dream itself,
right?
Dive into the moments that you really remember, or the ones that really cling to you, and attempt to create a narrative that allows the spirits to acknowledge that their message is coming through. Because then they might be able to be more explicit with what they want. Because if they're just showing you an event over and over again, and you're just reliving an event over and over again, it's possible that they're not convinced that you understand the event, so they can't move to the question. Sure. They can't get to the point at which they are highlighting what they want. Recurring dreams are, and this, it doesn't even have to be supernatural. Oftentimes, recurring dreams are about a condition that is pressing into your life. So if you have a stress or something that is significant to the moment that you're having recurring dreams, it is about acknowledging and understanding, comprehending what it is. Because even the act of recognizing it and saying, oh, that is why I'm having this recurring nightmare, this thing. Once you acknowledge that, oftentimes the nightmares go away, but you still have to deal with the thing that caused the nightmares. You have to really address the fact that whatever stressor it was that started the nightmares, be it work-related or paranormal-related, identifying it is like a first step. Following through may require more work.
Absolutely.
All right. Awesome question. On to the next one. Burkdirk _ asks. Burkdirk. I think they've asked before and we've said Burkdirk. I just found out the airport in Savannah has graves built in the runway.
Yes,
That's
it
right.
does.
Of course, y'all knew that.
It's one of my favorite little
amazing.
tidbits.
You can see it coming in.
Yep.
What?
It's the most on-brand thing for Savannah ever.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Yeah, the
You can see
tombstones-
it going in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
are literally.
I'm actually going to be at the airport filming
They don't
tonight.
let you over there.
No, you won't go because it's takeoff and land.
I
Just
can
go
use my
online.
hunting binoculars.
They're not standing. They're on the. They're flat. on
Yeah,
the ground.
it's built. Finish the question and we'll explain.
Okay. I just found out that the airport in Savannah has graves built in the runway, on brand for the city.
Yes, it
My
is.
mind thinks, how disrespectful. How did that happen?
So it's actually really interesting.
It's the opposite of disrespectful.
It is.
Believe it or not.
It's actually what the family wanted. So basically, where the airport is built, it was built next to an old farm.
That's correct.
And basically, what happened was the farm had a few graves on the property, probably of family.
6, I think.
Yeah. More than I think it was family members.
Yep.
And so the airport wanted to expand at one point, but it would have basically had to remove those graves. But the family did not want to dig up the graves at all. So what they agreed to is to lay the headstones into the runway. So it's literally runway pavement and
Yeah,
then
I can pull up a
headstone. And interestingly, with those particular graves, there have been pilots that have flown into Savannah who see people standing at the end of the runway, and they think that somebody's standing there.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and then when they land, there's nobody that was there or injured or anything like that.
Yeah, I want to say that there are, because the two on the runway, because they did move a lot of the graves to Bonaventure, I believe, and so when they were
Wow.
when they were moving them, I want to say it's a married couple. They couldn't get the permissions to move the bodies, so they came to this
No way.
this agreement.
Solution.
And it's on
Solution.
SavannahAirport.com?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but they will not let you over there.
Yeah,
Because
and
it
I
is
want to say there are a
dangerous.
couple of bodies still off of the runway,
Yeah.
equally, memorialized in the same
They
way.
won't let you over there. So how does the
Well,
family
it's
visit?
it's very dangerous.
I mean, I know you'd be in grave danger if you did go over there, but
wink, wink, nods,
but-
nods.
Oh, this is why they listen.
no, but yeah, that's it. No, how does the family mourn?
They don't.
They don't.
I mean,
Okay.
these graves
dope.
are these graves are really old, Jay. So
Yeah.
it's not like
no
they're
flowers.
Generations ago, nobody
Yep.
would bring
Wow.
flowers anyway. But they are maintained better than most graves because they are
Yeah.
part of a working runway.
right.
Yeah.
So they're well taken care of.
But
Okay.
yeah, it's I could see why you would think it's disrespectful because listen, Savannah does not have a great track record of being respectful to our graves, but these.
The fact that they went through this trouble
Right.
to honor the wishes and to not
just bulldoze over.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They could have just run the runway right over those graves and been like, meh.
Right.
Which Abercorn Street, which
Yeah.
So-
Like all of the downtown area of Savannah.
Jeez.
But yeah, it does say, I'm really surprised actually that you know about that because not even a lot of Savannians know about the runway.
Well, if
Headstones.
if you like spooky stories, that's a good one.
yeah.
That's
And it's
really
on the Savannah
dope.
Airport.
Yeah.
It is. It's not hidden
website. Yeah,
information, but-
no one hides it. And yeah, it's kind of a warmer story than you would think because you would like to think, oh, that's dark. It's like no, it's not dark. They actually honored the wishes and allowed the family members to.
They're even
still
at an
have
angle.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's because I think runways have to be at a specific
well, no,
trajectory.
they're at an angle.
No, that's what I'm saying.
for-
Is the bodies,
Yeah.
they didn't take the bodies out. They're exactly where they were.
Okay.
They didn't dig them up.
Gotcha.
They just put slabs on top of them
Wow.
and laid the
Headstones.
laid the
into it.
headstones right where they were.
Okay. All righty. That is a wild.
Fun Savannah fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not, a plain fact. It's
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
There you go.
Yep.
You open the door for Pun Master J.
oh yeah. All right, here we go. This is the YouTube comment of the week and also a question.
A question.
Together.
All right.
Chegou a melhor parte do podcast. É hora de provar a melhor Coca-Cola. A Coca-Cola sem açúcar. O sabor irresistível da Coca-Cola, sem açúcar e igualmente refrescante. Coca-Cola sem açúcar. A melhor escolha.
Catherine Short, with 2 T's at the end, said, on our episode, Disturbing Phone Calls, Dead Animals in the Walls, and More, Nightmare News. I live in Camborne, Cornwall, in England. My house is over 200 years old, and when cleaning and renovating my Inglenook fireplace, we found a mummified cat in an old tin ring. Just English things.
Lovely.
Cornwall is known for its witchy Celtic past, and tin is what the mines were dug for here. Hence the saying, wherever a mine is, a Cornishman will be around. We moved it, and now where we had no issues with ghosts, etc., we now have noticed lights going on and off, things moving and disappearing, a very dark feeling in the house where there wasn't previously. Should I put this back? I've lived here for 4 years with nothing. It's a big granite building, and thought it may have been a little issue with the stone, maybe repeating things going on. It's just strange that it's began since this mummified cat.
Put it back.
Put it back.
Put it back.
Oh.
Put
Okay.
it back.
Yeah. What that sounds like to me is probably a practitioner's familiar that they mummified in a ritualistic way. And that was where it was kept. Because obviously, back in the older days, witchcraft was not acceptable by any regards. So you could not exactly do a big grand ritual for your familiar outside. So you do it inside. Keep it somewhere where people are not going to find it. And if they're leaving an object as an offering or an attachment to the familiar, if you will, it sounds like you disrupted the ritual, if you will, or the spell, the internment. So just put the cat back. Because a witch is familiar.
Or even just the ring.
Or just the ring, too. I would put the cat back as well. But a witch's familiar is a very special thing. And a lot of people take it very, very seriously, especially in Celtic beliefs. So I wouldn't touch the cat.
Yeah.
Okay.
And given the proximity of those two things, it is likely that the cat was set to protect something. Mm-hmm. Something was going on to begin with. So, that there might have been something going on in the position, and they are using this very specific protection. Rings are very, very protective and used in protective spells. So the idea of the mummified cat, and even in the sense of a cat that passed away, and you put them somewhere and with a ring, it does sound to me seemingly that you're dealing with an understanding of the area. Like there's something there. We need a spiritual protector. Cats are
very protective.
Very famous for having ties. They spend more time in the veil than they do in the real world. So yeah, I could see that being a situation where there may have been something there before, and the only thing that kept it from bothering you was the cat in the ring.
Right.
So yeah.
So, moral of the story: put it back.
Put it back.
Put it back.
And that's always the moral of any story. If you find,
don't touch it.
If you find something weird in your walls, leave it be. Just leave it be.
A friend who found a little carved human fetus in her wall. I was like, I'll just put it back. I don't know what that's about, but let's play it safe and just put it back.
Carved fetus.
Interesting.
It was in her wall too, because she was putting in an outlet. They had to cut it in, and it was like a little and it was very creepy looking.
Yeah, a lot of people find witches' jars oftentimes in their walls, and they look.
Sure, there's a few in our walls.
No,
from you.
No,
is the joke.
I wouldn't say even if there was, but
you find those buried in along the corners of the house, usually at the corners of the house. You can find them. I've seen people till up jars and be like, I don't know what that is. Clang, clang, tank. And then the house is on fire.
Yeah, they look horrifying. They really do, but they are simply a protective spell. It's a very intense protective spell. But again, that's another thing that's a good example of don't touch it, because it's probably there for your best interest to just leave it be.
All right. Sounds good. Here we go. Next question. This comes from Taste E96. I have a quick question. I know that it can be common for clocks to stop at the time of death. I, however, have a cousin who had an experience where his watch stopped at the time of death of our grandmother before she actually died. Is this something y'all have ever heard of before?
That's fascinating.
It is very fascinating.
I have definitely heard of clocks stopping when people died. But my question is, do you mean like the day before at that time? Do you mean at the 12-hour mark before that time? Do you mean his watch was actually fast and it stopped and then she died at that time? I have a lot of questions about
what was going on with the clock.
What was happening, because if it was a question of like it was the day before at 4 PM and you look at your watch, you say, oh, it stopped, and then the next day at 4 PM, grandma dies. That's very interesting. But because I don't have that information, all I can really say is our method of measuring time is this weird fabrication that we came up with, and it becomes an obsessive point of our existence. And when we die, we stamp out the idea of time. One of the hardest things for people to really grasp is the notion or idea that when we die and we become our spiritual form, time no longer means anything. Time is a construct of this reality. When you die, you may have access to yesterday, to tomorrow. You may have access to all the yesterdays that ever were and all the tomorrows that will be. We don't know. But the notion that we affect the equipment that measures time when we die, that makes sense in a lot of ways, because we are literally leaving the plane at which time matters.
And I mean, it's also a pretty interesting concept that a lot of people used to stop clocks before people died. It was like a part of the ritual of like cover all the mirrors, stop the clocks, things like that. And it's almost like a way to like not rush somebody to die. So maybe it was a spirit around grandma or something that was like,
give her all the time she needs.
Right, exactly. Especially if it was like maybe a family member who was alive, especially during the Victorian era when they were really intense about death rituals and things like that. Where they're like, hey, y'all didn't do what you're supposed to do, cover the mirrors and stuff like that. So maybe it could have been something of that nature. I'm really thinking out of the box because, like Chris said, we don't have exactly the parameters of when the time was stopping and things like that. But my feeling is that it was a spirit around the soon to be deceased, because it's really common when people are going to pass that they oftentimes have spirits start to show up around them that are associated with them. It's very, very common. What's happening?
It's weird.
What?
So while we give this podcast, we're sitting at this table that has a very abstract design on it. And every now and then I get a very clear indication of a face. And for some reason today, the face is smiling.
Oh.
And I do not recall it smiling. So I'm taking a picture of it so that in future days, if it looks like it has a different expression. But it does now look like a woman smiling to me.
Which?
Do you see the smile?
Oh.
Face.
Oh.
Hair.
Yeah, this table came from Tampa, Florida. Yeah, Mom found this table. So
also a good thing to note about JT's mother, she is a big fan of buying things from people who have recently passed. So not out of the realm of possibility that this is a dead person's table. As is most of the furniture in this space. It is mostly antique. So Interesting. I don't spend, so this typically is covered, so I don't spend a lot of time staring at it, but that is really weird.
It's strange because the first time I saw it, I didn't notice that it was smiling, and it very well could have been, but today it just seems very smiley to me.
It's happy to
Smirky.
see you.
Smirky smile.
All right, on to the next question. Mackerel Smith _PJ asks, what do you think is the scariest Southern story?
Oh, gosh.
The scariest.
Scariest. That's tricky because there's a lot of stories to rack through in the brain.
It really is. Oof. Oof, oof. That's the entire South? So,
Yeah.
we're getting all the way to New Orleans, and
Yeah,
all
that's
the way
pretty
down to
insane.
Tampa, and
Yeah.
then
Right.
all the way up to Virginia, maybe. That's a lot of stories, and cataloging them as scariest, that's difficult because...
Well, have you ever been told a story that just was like, holy crap, that's like nonsensically scary, and it happened in the South? I don't know if he's talking about like Southern Gothic.
Well, the problem is, I'm cataloging thousands upon thousands of stories.
Yes.
And they all fit into kind of a weird sort of, they've been hammered down by me. So I'm like, there's a lot of scary stories. There's, there's a Central Asylum in Georgia. There's, all around New Orleans, you can find really scary and terrifying stories. Up and down Florida, you're dealing with all kinds of murder, mayhem, horror, serial killers.
Yeah, it's like, what decade are we looking for?
Yeah. I was like, you've
This
stumped us
person-
in a lot of ways. No. It's a valid question. It's a good question. It's such a broad place.
Yeah.
Because there are personal experiences where I'm like, oh, well, I think I saw the devil once. I think I went to the witch's graveyard. I've been to, these places that affect me very, very directly. Are those the most terrifying stories? I'm not sure. That raises a lot of questions. The Headless Woman of Statesboro.
The Bell Witch.
The Bell Witch is
Bell Witch
horrifying.
is a horrifying story.
You stumped Chris.
Well,
Mackerel.
it's just a lot. It's just a lot to go through. And I tell you what we can do is in the future do like a top 10 scariest
Okay.
stories.
Yeah, that's
Top
a good
10
idea.
scary stories,
Because
okay.
being put on the spot like this, it all flattens out.
Yeah,
It does. You're like,
it's
I remember nothing
I
now.
could think of, that was well, what about this story? What about, because there are classic like urban legend stories that people tell, like Red Eyes. People tell the Red Eyes story about, and there's a black dog, and there's all these things. Like, okay, those are scary stories, but they're also commonly understood to be folklore.
Right.
And then, the Plaid Eye is a strangely terrifying,
Horrifying
thing, but also in no way connective to individual stories, because you hear the Plaid Eye stories through traditional storytelling more than personal encounters.
Right.
We do hear a lot of personal encounters with the Hag, but the Hag is surprisingly much like many stories all across the world, and so it becomes, again, flattened by comparison.
Sure.
All of a sudden, you're like, you know what? The Hag is a lot like, the succubi of this or the creature of that, or there are so many very similar, and the fact that there's similar stories all around the world doesn't lessen the fear, but it does create you know what? I think this phenomena is widespread. So, great question. Just so
Give us a few weeks to.
I was going to say, but by volume, it's like, there's so many good stories. What story? There's a in Hinesville, Georgia, I think he was a captain in the Army, killed his wife and then himself. And there's a stretch of, I think it's Highway 82 now. There's a stretch of highway where people see the woman in her nightgown running and screaming down the highway. And it's like, she's a woman in white. But But people are like, no, she's the woman running from her husband as he shoots her.
Oh.
And it's like, what? And they're like, yeah, a lot of people after the event saw her and recognized her, knew who she was.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that's really creepy. So, there's like stretches of road around here that have crazy stories.
Yeah, I mean, there's horrible murders.
Yeah.
Even in Savannah, the Cottonville Road.
That's what.
one.
Yes.
God, we're
Tell
gonna
that
do
story.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot to put in one.
And we'll discuss it in our top 10, but summarize.
Okay, so basically, in 1982,
it is 82.
I believe
It's 82.
There's a road outside of the historic district of Savannah called Cottonville Road. It's over off of Ogeechee, and basically, this woman in the middle of the day, there was a work release program that would clean the ditches around Cottonville Road from the local prison. And so this guy, he had been working cleaning the ditch, and he decided, I'm going to just go absolutely obliterate someone. And so he broke into this woman's house and he nearly beheaded her. And I won't get into the gory details in this episode because we have children who listen to this. But in the top 10 video, we can definitely
we'll dive.
We can do the deep dive. But he seriously injured her in that way. He beat her. He sexually assaulted her. And her 14-year-old daughter came home from school and found her mother in her bedroom. With basically no head. And so the guy, interestingly enough, he was given life in prison twice, I believe, because this was not the first time he ever assaulted someone. But he was given life in prison because they did not want the daughter to have to give a witness statement that would have given him the death penalty. But and in 2016 or 2015 or so, they had to reconsider whether or not they would let him out on parole, but they did not. So that's good.
Yeah.
But he is a living monster, truly. Just the way, and he went back to work covered in blood and apparently showed no remorse for what he did.
He's never showed any remorse.
He has never showed any remorse, which is just horrifying. But you see that a lot with serial killers.
Yeah.
It's that psychopathy that just is almost inhuman.
Yeah.
That's horrifying.
Let's do instead of including that in the top 10, let's do a Parajunkie exclusive on that. And
on the Cottonville Road.
And we can even go to the location because it's right down on Ogeechee.
Yeah.
So I think that's worth the Parajunkie exclusive and to just, tell her story and all that.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're also going to do a deep dive again into the Gribble House murders because we did a episode on the Gribble House murders, but we didn't go fully into it.
Right.
I have found a lot more information since then.
Well, it's amazing because the Gribble House adventure, the Gribble House murders,
The Gribble House adventure.
encompass so many elements. There is a terrible racial component to it. There's terrible historic component to it. There's corruption. There is, there's so many things going on, and it's surprising that it wasn't more of a media circus.
Yeah.
And that is just Savannah's credit in a lot of ways and also detriment, that Savannah's very closed about its tragedies, very closed about the horrors that have happened here.
Yep.
And it's only been like in the last 30 years that people really talk about how messed up everything is. How they were able to keep, terrible murders a secret, how they were able to not press, if you live in Savannah, you've heard of the Jivens gang and you understand the Jivens gang, but the Jivens gang would be a national, situation on national news had we, sounded the alarms and all the bells and whistles, because it was a trying time for the community. So I think that it's fascinating that Savannah's always been able to put a cap on the national media attention, even in the 1800s,
in the case of the Gribble House too, the way that J.C. Hunter got off is just absolutely appalling. And that's commentary on the entire state of Georgia in the early 1900s, because it was not just a Savannah thing.
No.
That was all the way out into Atlanta that they were corroborating on this particular case.
I mean, it's insane. It's insane. And to think that this is just the case that we know about. Like right now we're embroiled because of South Carolina, the Alec Murdaugh case. We only know the one that came to light. That system obviously benefits so many people. So there must be many more stories, many horrible stories, many unaccounted for deaths, many unsolved mysteries that are basically covered up because of a network of people standing shoulder to shoulder and saying, nope, I vouch for you. Nope, I got you back.
Well, in that whole community with the Murdaugh case, that is just so messy. And no offense to anybody who lives in Hampton County, but like I have a friend who lives out there, and she's not from Hampton County originally, so she does not care. But she gives me all the nitty gritty of what it's like living in that county, and it is just appalling how much just that 100 years of the Murdaughs being
open corruption
in charge, that has instilled fear into generations of families who are still, even now that Alec Murdaugh has been convicted and is put away, people are still afraid.
That network is still in place, though. Absolutely, completely. Yeah. Also, all of this came from a question of, what's the scariest story of the South?
We have a lot.
So we should move on, and we will return to this excellent question, and we will keep an ear out for a podcast that is dedicated
to scary stories of the South.
The scary.
Pausa rapidinho agora para falar de dica de ouro para os papais e mamães. Depois de experimentar a nova Hug Supreme Care Fralda Roupinha, tudo ficou ainda melhor pro meu filho. É a única com canais em X que se adaptam aos movimentos, com 2 vezes proteção noturna e cintura elástica que se adapta ao corpinho do bebê, além de ser super fácil de colocar e tirar. Praticidade pura. Então guarda essa dica. Nova Hug Supreme Care Fralda Roupinha. Bebê, estamos juntos nessa, mais do que nunca. Agora curta seu podcast.
All right, this is the last one. This is Changeling03 asks, are spirits really more active at Halloween?
Okay, so the belief is that the veil is the thinnest during Samhain, which is Halloween, but it also has its counterpart, the spring equinox, which when the veil is the thinnest.
Which surprisingly, there's a big celebration about a resurrection. Somebody coming back from the dead is a big part of that period of time.
Yeah.
And the veil in question is about the cycles of life and death, which are represented in seasons.
Right.
We absolutely know that the autumnal equinox is bringing us into
the season of
death. And so the veil is, it's not even a question of thinner as much as it is how much attention we pay to the oncoming winter. And the oncoming winter for most of human experience, winter was something you survived. Winter was something harsh and difficult, and many of the traditions of going into the winter were about death. And so our attention, our thoughts, our pleas to the God, everything that we do in that period of time is get us through the winter. And then comes spring, where we celebrate that it's all coming back, that we made it. So, that's kind of why many people assume the darkness of the fall and the lightness of the spring. But the truth of the matter is absolutely, those times we are more aware of our mortality, of the environment's mortality, of all of these things. And so we are more open to ghost stories. We are more open to thinking about death.
When you turn on the TV, it's like, every single TV channel has 30 days of Halloween.
It's true.
Right, we're opening the door.
Well, and we honor different entities during both seasons, because technically a lot of people like to think that Samhain's the honoring of the recently deceased or ancestors or things like that, and then spring equinox you bring in the Fae. That's like known as the Fae's holiday. But mind you, both holidays are steeped in beliefs that you should stay inside.
Yes.
You should not go out. That's why they would carve turnips and root vegetables to scare away the entities saying, get away from me. Same thing with, you know.
Wait, so jack-o'-lanterns are like scarecrows?
Basically.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, that was the point. It's supposed to scare off the entities.
So when you make like a sweet jack-o'-lantern, you're basically not doing it right.
Well, have you ever seen before jack-o'-lanterns were ever a thing, they would carve turnips. Have you ever seen a carved turnip? It's horrifying looking. It's so freaky looking.
But what you also have to remember is that you light a fire in it.
Exactly. Giving it life.
And fire is almost always a ward. Because it brings light, it brings heat. It creates an area of safety in our minds and in our hearts. You put a fire inside of a face, no matter how cute it is.
Yeah,
it's a flaming face.
Yeah, a flaming head almost.
And that's the layover of dressing like monsters and ghouls and scary things is to participate in this notion of stay away. This place is scary. Stay away.
Exactly.
I'm going to be more scary than the scary thing that's coming.
But the belief with spring equinox was always to just stay inside and clean and rid yourself of all the clutter.
Sure.
And it's also an activity to keep you away from the fae, because if you go outside...
Oh, here we go.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah, Fae Daddy. Fae Daddy has arrived.
I'm just saying, it is literally known as the Fae's holiday, is spring equinox, because that's when they're coming out of their little hobbit holes, or not hobbits, but,
Fae holes.
Their little Fae holes.
That just sounds dirty.
Yeah.
Shut your Fae hole.
JT just ruins everything with the Fae, honestly.
I do.
But,
I feel like they would love that.
But
sure.
But and spring equinox is also a season of you just feel this desire to rid yourself and lighten yourself of all the
everything's
things
coming to life. You're shedding the winter fat and the winter coat. Yeah, absolutely.
So if you've ever wondered why in the spring, why spring cleaning is a thing, that was literally an activity that was meant to keep you preoccupied during the spring equinox, so you didn't go outside, because the Fae wants you to come outside. It's so nice and delightful outside right now. Join us. Bring us fairy cakes and have a picnic with us. Anyways, but if you want to hear more about the Fae, you can listen to our Fae episode. But
true, I'm sure there'll be more Fae episodes in the future.
But the whole point of that question, Samhain, Halloween, very thin time of the year, but it has its counterpart. Everything always has its lighter and darker counterpart. So.
And it's literally the turning of the tide.
Yeah.
And so naturally there's going to be more energy available. You're turning the tide from a season of life to a season of death, and then you're turning the tide from a season of death to a season of life. Those are going to be big energy moments.
Yes. So there you go. And that is going to wrap up today's Q&A. If you guys have any questions that we did not answer today, definitely utilize the Q&A button on our TikTok profile under Haunted City Podcasts. If you don't have TikTok, that is a-okay. Just send it to our ghost mail with the subject questions so that we can decipher it between the ghost mail stories and things like that. But that is ghostmail@hauntedcitypodcast.com. But with that, my name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susi.
And stay spooky, y'all.